Wanderers, this is the strongest, the fastest, and the laziest farming barbarian build out there on the market today. This build will fly through all Torment 4 content, including bosses. Now, it has pushed Pit 100, but that's not what we're designing it for. This will be your ultimate Nightmare Dungeon, Helltide farming, lazy speed demon to get you all of the materials, all of the gear, and all of the chaos armor that you could possibly need. Now, I'll show you what it does against some bosses and in a pit run. That'll come up in just a second, and then we're going to break down the skills for you.
Careful now.
Now, before we hop into the skills, with the addition of the Chaos Armor, things have really gotten shaken up. It is a huge puzzle to put your builds together. There's going to be several different variants in this planner, so make sure you use the variants along the top here in order to choose which one is going to work for you. This will start off running Call of the Ancients because that's going to be a much stronger version until you get the Chaos Armor up and running. So just know that by the time you get to your final version, you will have to change all of the tempers on your rings. So you might want to choose the strongest version of whatever you have found and put those tempers on ahead of time until you get to this point. If you don't have any of the mythics, because this build is going to be covered with mythics and it will be covered with all of the chaos armor, I have written in all of the substitutions here, but again, it's going to be based on whatever your character is going to be at. You do not need mythics to get this build up and running. You do not even need chaos armor to get it up and running. That will all just increase the damage that you're going to do with this build. So make sure that you follow along with the planner because this will be the most up to date and it'll be in the top of the description of this video. So for your skill points, we're going to put 2 points in just to unlock your next board. Now this will have Whirlwind. Whirlwind is just a generator for some Dust Devils and a way for us to regenerate Fury and keep on moving at a very, very fast pace. We're going to be going into Enhanced Whirlwind. This will help regen some of our Fury every time that we hit enemies. Once this build is up and running for you, you won't even need this because you're going to be able to Whirlwind out in the world without touching any enemies, without even stopping. Then we're going to go 2 points into Pressure Point. This will give your Whirlwind a chance to make enemies vulnerable. Coming down, we're going to be going into Ground Stomp, all the way up through Strategic Ground Stomp. This will allow you to reset the cooldowns of your ultimate skills by up to 15 seconds. It's going to be 5 seconds per enemy hit. We're going to go 3 points into Imposing Presence for some additional maximum life. 3 points into Martial Vigor. This will give us some damage reduction against elites. We're going to be going into Rallying Cry all the way down through Tactical Rallying Cry. Now, generally, this says 20 increased Fury and 20% resource generation. Because of the new seasonal perks, and because we're having an auto cast here, we're going to get 50% increase to all of those stats. This is how we're going to help maintain our Whirlwind no matter where we are, whether we're hitting enemies or not. We will be generating this Fury every 1.5 seconds, and that will always keep our Fury at max, as long as we have the resource cost management under control with some of the gear, which we'll talk about when we get to the gear section. Then we're going to be going 1 point into Outburst. This will give us some Thorns damage, which is going to be important when we get to the Paragon board. 1 point into Challenging Shout all the way down through Enhanced Challenging Shout. Because of the 50% increase that we're going to be getting, we're going to have a massive 70% increase damage reduction, as well as 30% increase maximum life. Coming down to Warcry, we're going to be maxing this out here all the way down through Power Warcry. That's going to give us a 15% additional bonus on top of the 31.5% that we already get whenever there's 6 enemies around us or more. 2 points into Raid Leader. Now, the wording on this is a little weird. Your shouts also heal allies. They also heal you as well. 2 points into Guttural Yell. This will give us some damage reduction from enemies that are affected by our shouts. Aggressive Resistance will give us damage reduction while berserking. We will be berserking 100% of the time, and because of that, we're going to be taking Prolific Fury. While we're berserking, our Fury generation is going to get increased. This will help us maintain that Whirlwind outside of hitting enemies. 3 points into Pit Fighter. We're going to get some additional damage to close enemies and then some damage reduction. 3 points into Slaying Strikes for some additional damage to healthy and injured enemies. Anything that is below 35% life is considered injured, and then anything above 80% life is going to be considered healthy. You can read the tooltips right here below it. Then we're going to be taking No Mercy. This will give us some critical strike chance. Once you get all your Chaos gear online, you get your Master working down, you can actually remove these points because you'll be at cap without it. Then we're going to be going 1 point into Thick Skin here, and we're going to be taking Counteroffensive. Now, you're going to have to see how your Fortified Generation is working. If your Fortified Generation does not get you above your 50% of your maximum life, which we're going to have this option in the planner for you, we're going to be swapping this rune over to Mighty Warcry. This will give you some additional Fortify. If you're feeling strong and you want to take this additional 15%, you can figure out which one you want. They're going to be great options for you no matter what. But in the planner, we're going to have your Mighty Warcry. Then we're going to be coming down here into your ultimate skill. We're going to be taking Wrath of Berserker all the way down through Supreme Wrath of Berserker. Wrath of the Berserker will add a pull. Now, a pull is absolutely 100% essential to doing damage, which seems kind of weird, but when monsters group up underneath all your Earthquakes and all of your Dust Devils, they take the most damage. That's why we're going with this over Call of the Ancients. Now, Call of the Ancients does cast Dust Devils and Earthquakes at an increased damage rate. However, without Ariad's Bearing, because we're going to be replacing that with Chaos Armor, this is going to be the best option for you. Then we're going to be taking 3 points into Heavy-Handed. This is going to be a 2-handed mace setup. That's going to give us the most damage because we can take advantage of this critical strike damage increase. And Wallop will also give us a increase to damage against vulnerable enemies. We're going to go 3 points into Heavy Hitter. This will make our ultimate, our Earthquakes, and our Dust Devils do additional damage. Because we're going to be running a Beast Cornered, we're going to be running Invigorating Fury. A Beast Cornered is one of the seasonal perks, which we'll get to in a little bit, but it's going to drain our life. So in order to counteract that, we're going to be putting points in Invigorating Fury after the next hotfix that may change. But for now, keep up with the planner because I'll post the updates there. Our final point will go into Unconstrained. Your Berserking damage bonus will be increased, which we will be all of the time. We're going to gain Berserking, which we will have from Warcry anyway, but we also gain 30% physical damage reduction bonus. So as you can see, we've stacked a ton of damage reduction with this build. So that's the skill tree. Let's take a look at the Paragon board. Inside of the starter board here, we're going to be running Wrath. When your glyphs hit level 46, they gain a legendary bonus on the bottom. We're going to get increased critical strike damage, and we're going to be generating Fury whenever we critically strike with any of our skills. Coming up, we're going to be going into Flawless Technique. Consecutive attacks with the same weapon increase your critical strike chance by 15%, and is also going to give us an increase to our damage. Inside of that board, we're going to be running Revenge. This is why we took Outbursts inside of the skill tree. That gives us Thorns. Enemies that take Thorns damage will take up to 15% increased damage. And then our legendary bonus is some additional damage as well. In the next board, we're going to be running Blood Rage. The only part of this that you really need is we're going to get 45% increased damage whenever we're berserking, and we will be berserking 100% of the time. In the board, we're going to be running Challenger. You're going to get an additional bonus to your normal nodes, so we now have 9 strength instead of 5. We're going to deal increased damage to elites with both the additional bonus and the legendary bonus. Then for your next board, we're going to be running Carnage. While berserking, we're going to get 15% increased attack speed and some additional damage to fire and physical. In the board, we're going to be running Rumble. We're going to deal 3% increased damage to bosses and crowd control enemies for each active earthquake up to 15%. Now, all we have to do is just have 5 earthquakes out, which we absolutely can do. Then we're going to come up here into your Force of Nature board. This gives your earthquakes some additional damage, 45%, and it also gives us a chance to spawn Dust Devils. Inside of that board, we're going to be running Twister. This is going to give us increased damage whenever we create a Dust Devil, and it's going to make our Dust Devils do additional damage. Now, for the gear here, we're going to start with a helmet. I'm running Ramalodnes. Now, if you follow along with the planner, we're going to be running Air of Perdition. That's going to be your absolute best. This will give us some additional damage, but this only scales off of the points of fury that we have at the time. Now, because we're going to be running the seasonal perks, even though I have 216 fury, I will only be able to get up to 86. Now you take 0.6% of that, and that is the amount of increased damage that you do. So Air of Perdition will be the best option for you because you will gain critical strike chance, movement speed, which is going to be tough when we get all of the cast uniques on, as well as some lucky hit chance and some additional damage. For the chest piece here, we're going to be running Fists of Fate. This is going to give you a big increase to your damage. It is a random chance, but it procs all the time. It's also going to be our best source for chance to make enemies vulnerable. This is really where you want to get a GA on that. If you don't have it, you can put it on something like Exploit Glyph, or you can find that affix on your amulet or on your ring. We're going to be running Crown of Lucian. This is going to increase the cost of your Whirlwind whenever you're using it. So if this is something that makes it unplayable, you can take this off and just replace it with anything from any of the other variants. But Crown of Lucian is going to give us up to a 90% increased damage, which is huge. It will also increase our cost by up to 150%. Good source of cooldown reduction and some shadow resistance. Then we're going to be going into Battle Trance. This thing is absolutely amazing. This is normally an amulet, so it now is going to give us 30% increased resistance to all elements, which is invaluable, especially with the way that this season works. Then we're also going to have a lucky hit chance to gain Frenzy stacks. Now, we don't even have to have Frenzy on the bar. You can just gain that lucky hit chance proc, and we have up to that 20% chance to gain it. The reason that you want to gain Frenzy stacks is that your Frenzy stacks will be increased by 2. While at maximum stacks, we're going to deal additional damage, and then your other skills, other than Frenzy, will gain additional attack speed, which means Whirlwind will have 66% increased attack speed. Now, if that wasn't great enough, you now have double strength percentage on 2 pieces of gear, which you can never have in any other situation. So Battle Trance is absolutely huge for us. Here now, we will be running something different here. Eventually we'll move a couple things around to get the Ugly Bastard helmet on here, but for now we're running Wild Bolts. This is going to pull enemies into us and deal additional damage to those enemies. It also gives me a chance to have some really great movement speed, so if this build is speed for you, make sure you don't swap it out until you have enough movement speed. Now, that stun duration definitely should be Dust Devil size, but again, it is the beginning of the season, and so we're going to still finding gear, and we're still waiting to get myself geared up. For your mace, we're going to be running Earthquakes. The way that this works, you can ignore the ground stomp portion of this. While standing in an earthquake for 4 seconds afterwards, you're going to deal increased damage. That's the most important part about this. And then on top of all of that, our earthquakes are going to deal additional damage. For the affixes here, we're going to be running Strength, Max Life, Critical Strike damage. And then for your tempers, we're going to be running damage while Wrath of Berserker is active, and you're going to be running Chance for Earthquakes to cast twice. If you don't have enough cooldown, you can actually go with Critical Strike damage, because that probably will be up more often than Chance for Wrath of Berserker to cast twice. Then for your one-handed weapon, we're going to be running Executioners. Again, the overpower part of this is not important. The part that we're focused on is your earthquakes are going to deal increased damage based on how much strength we have. With the 2 different strength multipliers on your amulet and on Battle Trance, you will not have an issue hitting this cap. For your affixes here, we're going to be running Strength, max life, critical strike damage, and then for your tempers, we're going to be running any additive damage that you choose, as well as wallop. For the other weapon here, we're going to be running Fierce Winds. This is the first part of creating your auto-cast Dust Devils. Your shouts create 3 Dust Devils that deal damage. Your Dust Devils are bigger, and they gain increased damage based on how much bigger they are. If you watch on the screen here, you can see that every time we shout, we're creating 9 Dust Devils. Now, you can only have 15 out at one time. So that's why we're not going to put on every single Dust Devil aspect, because we will be capped. Because as you can see, sometimes these are disappearing. We're already basically hitting cap as it is. So you really don't need too many Dust Devil aspects to make sure that we're doing maximum Dust Devil damage. We're going to be running the Grandfather here. This is going to give us some big damage, as well as a whole bunch of just really great stats. Then we're going to be running the Ring of Starless Sky. This will help counteract the cost that Lucian adds to your Whirlwind by cutting down that primary resource cost by half, and giving you a big multiplier to damage. We're going to be running Dust Devils here on your next ring. Whirlwind is going to leave Dust Devils behind, and then it also, anything that is hit by Dust Devils are going to take additional damage. If you need more cooldown reduction on Wrath of the Berserker, you can always put Vehement Sprawler on here. That's also a great option, but just in the spirit of having Dust Devils on, we're running a Dust Devil aspect. For the affixes here, we're going to be running Strength, Max Life, Critical Strike Damage, and then for your tempers, we're going to be running Wrath of Berserker cooldown, as well as any additive damage that you're going to fit into this build. Critical Strike Damage, damage while Wrath of Berserker is up. You're going to choose which one you want to run and which one fits your playstyle the most. For your necklace here, we're going to be running Incendiary Fissures. This is going to increase your Earthquakes damage, and it will also convert it to fire damage. For the affixes here, we're going to be running Strength, Movement Speed, and Heavy-Handed. And for your tempers here, we're going to be running Invigorating Fury and Wrath of the Berserker cooldown reduction. Now, once a Beast Cornered gets changed, we may not have to have Invigorating Fury, but we'll get to see what happens after they make those changes. So that's the year. Let's take a look at the gems and the runes. Now, it's going to be based on whatever you need. So as you can see, my resistances are under here. I have a skull. I can remove that skull because I have enough armor, and then I can put in more gems to give myself a closer look at getting to that maximum cap. And I also don't have incense on as well. So you're going to pick and choose what you want for your jewelry to put in the gems that you need there to get yourself to cap. For the Barbarian, with how many slots we have to socket things in, you're always going to put the gems inside of your gear. You do not want to put them inside of your weapons here, because we're going to gain multiplicative damage based on strength, and rubies will give you strength. As you can see, we deal 472% increased damage because we have 4,700 strength. That is a multiplier. Also giving us a whole bunch of armor, so strength is a really great option for the Barbarian. Inside of your weapons, we're going to be running emeralds. That's some critical strike damage. For the runes here, we're going to be running Ahu Cax. Now, even when this procs, because we generate so much fury, you really don't even notice it, and it will not stop you from whirlwinding. This is going to just give us a huge increase to our damage whenever we cast an ability that is not a basic skill. Then we're also going to be running Bach Tech. As we move around and as we run, we're going to generate earthquakes. That's where the big majority of our earthquakes come from. As we run, you can see we're casting 2 earthquakes at a time because of the tempers on our weapons. So now we've filled up the whole entire screen. There's Dust Devils everywhere because Dust Devils can come out of the earthquakes. There's earthquakes doing damage. It is just big AoE damage. For your consumables here, you have a couple different options. It depends on where your character's at. I'm going to be running Soothing Spices for the additional resistances. Song of the Mountain, if you're under armor cap. If you're not under armor cap and you're over, then you're going to be running Redamine Buzz for some additional maximum life. And then you're going to be running Ancient Times for some additional strength here. For your choices for Elixir, you can run Elixir of Resourcefulness if you're running into some issues, or if you have the Ramalades on. And then you can run Elixir of Fortitude if that's not the case for you, help you stay alive a little bit longer. Because I'm running Ramalades and I'm over armor cap, I'm going to put these 4 on here, and that will get me fully geared out and ready to go. Now, let's look at our expertise, the way the expertise works, because I get this question a lot. We can run a 2-handed mace and still have the 2-handed axe expertise on, because this is just an additional bonus. The Barbarians will still take advantage of the 10% increased damage to vulnerable enemies while using a mace. Having a mace on and using it will actually deal increased critical strike damage while berserking. We're going to be berserking all the time. But when you put this on here, you notice that the only thing that we gain is going to be a chance to gain fury. So putting this two-handed axe expertise on is going to be the best option because it is a multiplier to your damage. For the mercenaries, we're going to start off with Rahir. If you are over the resistance cap, which as you saw, I'm not, you can swap this out, but the way that Rahir works is that every 11 seconds, you're going to gain increased damage. That is probably the lowest cooldown out of all of the mercenaries, so you're going to do some pretty big damage, and that is going to last for up to 6 seconds, so you really only have 5 seconds of cooldown. He also has Bastion, which is a basically invincible shield. You redirect 90% of the damage that would have been dealt to himself, so he is a great option for survivability. That's also why we're going to be running Altkin here. Altkin with Fields of Languish. That will cause enemies to deal 20% less damage to us. We want to make sure this is out, especially when we're doing big pulls or we have a lot of monsters or explosions going on around us. For the Chaos perks, we're going to be running a Beast Corner. Now, this is the big talk of the town right now. It is currently draining way too much life, and there is a hotfix coming for it, but it is perfectly fine for this build because you are so tanky with so much damage reduction. There are a lot of other builds right now that are struggling with it, but this one here is definitely not that. For every 10% of your life missing, you're going to gain increased damage and some additional damage reduction. As you saw, we are stacking more and more. Spending resources is also going to drain a portion of our life. It does refund some of those resources, so it actually is a really great ability to use, especially for core skills. The problem is, for every 100 Fury that we're spending, we're going to be losing 30% of our life. Now, you can't go below 10% life with this, so it will not kill you, so don't worry. On top of that, to make it even harder, we're going to be running Marred Guard. You can no longer be healed above 50% life, but we're going to be gaining 10% increased maximum resistances. We're also going to be gaining 10%. We're also going to gain 20% armor and some additional increases to barrier and fortify generation. Now, the last part of putting together our auto cast is going to be Deafening Chorus. Your equip shouts are now always active with 50% increase to the effect, but your maximum current fury is going to be reduced by 20% per shout. But that's also how we're casting all of these Dust Devils all the time. Fierce Winds combined with this is going to get you there. For the final perk, we're going to be running Accelerating. On a lucky hit, we're going to have a chance to spawn a Chaotic Burst. That will help reduce some of the cooldowns, and that will really only affect Wrath of Berserker and Ground Stomp. So those are your perks. Let me show you the incredibly simple way that this build works for the gameplay loop. The only thing that you're going to do is just Whirlwind, and then you're just going to cast your Wrath of Berserker, and you're going to hold it down, and then you're going to be doing billions and billions of damage with a Whirlwind build that will absolutely smash through Torment 4. It's going to be very tanky, it's going to be very fun, and all you have to do is just Whirlwind. Even if you don't want to cast Wrath of Berserker and you just wanted to hold down your Whirlwind button, this will clear all of the Torment 4 content, and it still will hit very, very hard. 13 billion there just by holding it down. So this is the auto cast Dust Devil Barbarian with Earthquakes. It is the best hybrid version of it, and it is absolutely a blast to play. Let me know in the comments what you think of the build and any changes that you made that you really, really enjoy. That's all I got for you today. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, make sure you share it with your friends. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm live every night. I'd love it if you stopped by, said hi, theory crafted with me. Catch you on the clip side.